The North Crawford Mask and Wig Club, an amateur theatrical society I belong to, voted to do Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire for the spring play. Doris Sawyer, who always directs, said she couldn't direct this time because her mother was so sick. And she said the club ought to develop some other directors anyway because she couldn't live forever, even though she'd made it safely to 74. So I got stuck with the directing job, even though the only thing I'd ever directed before was the installation of combination aluminum storm windows and screens I'd sold. That's what I am, a salesman of storm windows and doors, and here and there a bathroom enclosure. As far as acting goes, the highest rank I ever held on stage was either butler or policeman, whichever is higher. I made a lot of conditions before I took the directing job, and the biggest one was that Harry Nash, the only real actor the club had to take the Marlon Brando part in the play. To give you an idea of how versatile Harry is, inside of 1 year he was Captain Queeg in the Kane Mutiny Court-Martial, then Abe Lincoln in Illinois, then the young architect in The Moon is Blue. The year after that, Harry Nash was Henry VIII in Anne of the Thousand Days, and Doc in Come Back Little Sheba, and I was after him for Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire. Harry wasn't at the meeting to say whether he'd take the part or not. He never came to meetings. He was too shy. He didn't stay away from meetings because he had something else to do. He wasn't married, didn't go out with women, didn't have any close men friends either. He stayed away from all kinds of gatherings because he could never think of anything to say or do without a script. So I had to go down to Miller's hardware store, where Harry was a clerk, the next day and ask him if he'd take the part. I stopped off at the telephone company to complain about a bill I'd gotten for a call to Honolulu. I'd never called Honolulu in my life. And there was this beautiful girl I'd never seen before behind the counter at the phone company. And she explained that the company had put in an automatic billing machine and that the machine didn't have all the bugs out of it yet. It made mistakes. Not only did I not call Honolulu, I told her, I don't think anybody in North Crawford ever has or will. So she took the charge off the bill, and I asked her if she was from around North Crawford. She said no. She said she just came with the new billing machine to teach local girls how to take care of it. After that, she said she would go with some other machine to someplace else. Well, I said, as long as people have to come along with the machines, I guess we're all right. What? She said. When machines start delivering themselves, I said, I guess that's when people better start really worrying. Oh, she said. She didn't seem very interested in that subject, and I wondered if she was interested in anything. She seemed kind of numb, almost a machine herself, an automatic phone company politeness machine. How long will you be in town here? I asked her. I stay in each town 8 weeks, sir, she said. She had pretty blue eyes, but there sure wasn't much hope or curiosity in them. She told me she'd been going from town to town like that for 2 years, always a stranger. And I got it in my head that she might make a good Stella for the play. Stella was the wife of the Marlon Brando character, the wife of the character I wanted Harry Nash to play. That's the first time anybody ever asked me to participate in any community thing. Well, I said, there isn't any other way to get to know a lot of nice people faster than to be in a play with them. She said her name was Helene Shaw. She said she might just surprise me, and herself. She said she just might come. You would think that North Crawford would be fed up with Harry Nash in plays after all the plays he'd been in, but the fact was that North Crawford probably could have gone on enjoying Harry forever, because he was never Harry on stage. When the maroon curtain went up on the stage in the gymnasium of the Consolidated Junior-Senior High School, Harry, body and soul, was exactly what the script and director told him to be. Somebody said one time that Harry ought to go to a psychiatrist so he could be something important and colorful in real life, too. So he could get married anyway and maybe get a better job than just clerking in Miller's hardware store for $50 a week. But I don't know what a psychiatrist could have turned up about him that the town didn't already know. The trouble with Harry was that he'd been left on the doorstep of the Unitarian Church when he was a baby, and he never did find out who his parents were. When I told him there in Miller's that I'd been appointed director and that I wanted him in my play, he said what he always said to anybody who asked him to be in a play. and it was kind of sad if you think about it. "Who am I this time?" he said. So I held the tryouts where they're always held, in the meeting room of the second floor of the North Crawford Public Library. Doris Sawyer, the woman who usually directs, came to give me the benefit of all her experience. The two of us sat in state upstairs while the people who wanted parts waited below. We called them upstairs one by one. Harry Nash came to the tryouts, even though it was a waste of time. I guess he wanted to get that little bit more acting in. For Harry's pleasure, and our pleasure too, we had him read from the scene where he beats up his wife. It was a play in itself, the way Harry did it, and Tennessee Williams hadn't written it all either. Tennessee Williams didn't write the part, for instance, where Harry, who weighs about 145, who's about 5 feet 8 inches tall, added 50 pounds to his weight and 4 inches to his height by just picking up a playbook. He had a short little double-breasted bellows-back grade school graduation suit coat on, and a dinky little red tie with a horse head on it. He took off his coat and tie, opened his collar, then turned his back to Doris and me, getting up steam for the part. There was a great big rip in the back of his shirt, and it looked like a fairly new shirt, too. He'd ripped it on purpose so he could be that much more like Marlon Brando right from the first. When he faced us again, he was huge and handsome and conceited and cruel. Doris read the part of Stella, the wife, and Harry bullied that old lady into believing that she was a sweet, pregnant girl married to a sexy gorilla who was going to beat her brains out. She had me believing it, too. And I read the lines of Blanche, her sister in the play, and darned if Harry didn't scare me into feeling like a drunk and faded Southern belle. And then, while Doris and I were getting over our emotional experiences, like people coming out from under ether, Harry put down the playbook, put on his coat and tie, and turned into the pale hardware store clerk again. Was that all right?" he said, and he seemed pretty sure he wouldn't get the part. "Well," I said, "for our first reading, that wasn't too bad." "Is there a chance I'll get the part?" he said. I don't know why he always had to pretend there was some doubt about his getting a part, but he did. "I think we can safely say we're leaning powerfully in your direction," I told him. He was very pleased. "Oh, thanks a lot," he said, and he shook my hand. "Is there a pretty new girl downstairs?" I said, meaning Helene Shaw. "I didn't notice," said Harry. It turns out that Helene Shaw had come for the tryouts, and Doris and I had our hearts broken. We thought the North Crawford Mask and Wig Club was finally going to put a really good-looking, really young girl on stage instead of one of the beat-up 40-year-old women we generally have to palm off as girls. But Helene Shaw couldn't act for sour apples. No matter what we gave her to read, she was the same girl with the same smile for anybody who had a complaint about his phone bill. Doris tried to coach her some, to make her understand that Stella in the play was a very passionate girl who loved a gorilla because she needed a gorilla. But Helene just read the lines the same way again. I don't think a volcano could have stirred her up enough to say, "Ooh."
"Dear," said Doris, "I'm going to ask you a personal question."
"All right," said Helene.
"Have you ever been in love?"
said Doris.
"The reason I ask," she said, "remembering some old love might help you put more warmth in your acting."
Helene frowned and thought hard. "Well, I travel a lot, you know, and practically all the men in the different companies I visit are married. And I never stay any place long enough to know many people who aren't."
"What about school?" said Doris. "What about puppy love and all the other kinds of love in school?"
So Helene thought hard about that, and then she said, "Even in school I was always moving around a lot. My father was a construction worker, following jobs around, so I was always saying hello or goodbye to someplace without anything in between."
Said Doris.
"Would movie stars count?" said Helene. I don't mean in real life. I never knew any. I just mean up on the screen." Doris looked at me and rolled her eyes.
"I guess that's love of a kind," she said.
Then Helene got a little enthusiastic. "I used to sit through movies over and over again," she said, "and pretend I was married to whoever the man movie star was. They were the only people who came with us. No matter where we moved, movie stars were there."
Said Doris.
Well, thank you, Miss Shaw, I said. You go downstairs and wait with the rest. We'll let you know. So we tried to find another Stella, and there just wasn't one. Not one woman in the club with the do still on her. All we've got are Blanches, I said, meaning all that we had were faded women who could play the part of Blanche, Stella's faded sister. That's life, I guess. 20 Blanches to 1 Stella.
And when you find a Stella, said Doris, it turns out she doesn't know what love is.
Doris and I decided there was one last thing we could try. We could get Harry Nash to play a scene along with Helene. He just might make her bubble the least bit, I said.
That girl hasn't got a bubble in her, said Doris.
So we called down the stairs for Helene to come back on up, and we told someone to go find Harry. Harry never sat with the rest of the people at tryouts, or at rehearsals either. The minute he didn't have a part to play, he'd disappear into some hiding place where he could hear people call him, but where he couldn't be seen. At tryouts in the library, he generally hid in the reference room, passing the time looking at flags of different countries in the front of the dictionary. Helene came back upstairs, and we were very sorry and surprised to see that she'd been crying.
Oh, dear, said Doris. Oh, my, now what on earth's the trouble, dear?
Oh, I was terrible, wasn't I? Said Helene, hanging her head. Doris said the only thing anybody can say in an amateur theatrical society when somebody cries. She said,
Why, no, dear, you were marvelous.
No, I wasn't, said Helene. I'm a walking icebox, and I know it.
Nobody could look at you and say that, said Doris.
When they get to know me, they can say it, said Helene. When people get to know me, that's what they do say. Her tears got worse. I don't want to be the way I am, she said. I just can't help it living the way I've lived all my life. The only experiences I've ever have been in crazy dreams of movie stars. When I meet somebody nice in real life, I feel as though I'm in some kind of big bottle. As though I couldn't touch that person, no matter how hard I tried. And Helene pushed on air as though it were a big bottle around her. You asked me if I've ever been in love, she said to Doris. No, but I want to be. I know what this play's about. I know what Stella's supposed to feel and why she feels it. I, she said, and her tears wouldn't let her go on.
You what, dear? Said Doris gently.
Said Helene as she pushed on the imaginary bottle again. I just don't know how to begin, she said. There was a heavy clumping on the library stairs. It sounded like a deep-sea diver coming upstairs in his lead shoes. It was Harry Nash turning himself into Marlon Brando. In he came, practically dragging his knuckles on the floor, and he was so much in character that the sight of a weeping woman made him sneer. Harry, I said, I'd like you to meet Helene Shaw. Helene, this is Harry Nash. If you get the part of Stella, he'll be your husband in the play. Harry didn't offer to shake hands. He put his hands in his pockets and he hunched over, and he looked her up and down, gave her looks that left her naked. Her tears stopped right then and there. I wonder if you two would play the fight scene, I said, and then the reunion scene right after it. Sure, said Harry, his eyes still on her. Those eyes burned up clothes faster than she could put them on. Sure, he said. It's Stella's game. What? Said Helene. She turned the color of cranberry juice. Stella, said Harry. That's you. Stella's my wife. I handed the two of them playbooks. Harry snatched his from me without a word of thanks. Helene's hands weren't working very well, and I had to kind of mold them around the book. I want something I can throw, said Harry. What? I said. There's one place where I gotta throw a radio out the window. What can I throw? So I said an iron paperweight was the radio, and I opened the window wide. Helene Shaw looked scared to death. Where do you want us to start? Said Harry, and he rolled his shoulders like a prize fighter warming up. Start a few lines back from where you throw the radio out the window. Okay, said Harry, warming up. He scanned the stage directions. Let's see, he said. After I throw the radio, she runs off the stage and I chase her on a soccer one. You're right, I said. Okay, baby, Harry said to Helene, his eyelids drooping. What was about to happen was wilder than the chariot race in Ben-Hur. On your mark, said Harry. Get ready, baby. Go!